Mike, what's up, brother?
Just got done shooting some machine guns, I think.
Hey, man, it's been a good day, but I don't know. I want to hear your highlight from the day together, but I'll tell you mine first.
Okay.
My highlight of the day was the skip shot at 100 yards with the compact HKVP9.
Yep. I will take that all day long, especially with the lighting conditions, the conditions of that target. Yeah, I'll take it.
That was so legit, man. So me and Mike have been filming all day today. And by the way, this is my friend Mike, Mrgunsngear. You guys probably know him as Mrgunsngear on YouTube and X and all the socials. But we've been filming all day, and one of the videos that we did, if you guys watch our channel, you know we do the distance challenge where we back up in 10-yard increments. We're back at 100 yards. It's windy. We got a subcompact pistol. I missed my 3 shots. Y'all get to go watch it on film when it comes out. But Mike just lobs one in there, and it hits the dirt probably 3 feet in front of the silhouette and just skips up and dead center. Ping!
Lobs is the correct term. That is what I was doing,
man,
at that distance.
So what was your highlight, dude?
Honestly, just getting to meet you guys, see the place, because I watch the channel. So that's always interesting for me, is to see where the videos are filmed, what it really looks like versus what it looks like on camera.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And I like doing collaborations too. I think it's fun content that people like, and it's also a great way to introduce your audience to another audience, So I think it's a win-win all the way around.
Well, it was interesting talking about the collaboration piece, which that's something that we don't do enough of.
Same.
Because it takes a lot of effort on the behalf of both parties. You have to set a day aside. Somebody's going to have to travel.
Right.
But the cool thing is today, as we were filming specifically on the slide lock reload video, as much as you and I shoot and have shot in the past, and, it's kind of our thing.
Right.
We're learning new things as we're talking through it and walking through it together.
Right, because everyone has different experiences and they have different preferences and learn different techniques over the years,
Yeah, and you're talking. You train using the slide release lever or the slide lock lever to send the slide forward, and you're like, as you're talking through it, you're like, actually, there's another benefit here that maybe you've never even thought of. I know I haven't thought of, and that's, it brings your grip together to where, and that's probably part of what makes it faster on that follow-up shot.
It's a little bit more natural for sure.
Yeah, but until you get out and you talk through it, and I don't know, it's like, it's great to film a video when it's not just beneficial to the audience, but it's a reward to me that it's beneficial for me too, because it's forcing me to think through these things.
Right.
And see things from a different angle. So, yeah, that's been good, brother. Really appreciate you coming out.
Absolutely. Great weather, too. Can't be mad about that.
Yeah, I know, man. This is springtime. It's my least favorite season because, like a day ago, it was 30-something degrees, and then the next day it's 70 degrees. But, hey, we'll take them when we get them, man.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Allergies are coming as well soon.
Oh, yeah, they're coming, man. All the pine trees that we have
bud.
around here, for sure, it's going to get nasty. That's all right. It'll be over before you know it.
For sure.
And we'll be into that hot summer. Well, Mike, I really want to, utilize this time to learn a little bit more about who you are and kind of talk through your journey in terms of entrepreneurship, specifically as a content creator.
Yep.
And maybe this is a selfish interview because, it's part of my life. You've been doing it so much longer than I have. And I'm still like half the time confused about what's going on.
Sure, so am I.
Yeah, I know you feel that too, but, you've worked through things that I haven't been through yet, or maybe I'm currently going through. And I think a lot of our conversation can apply to just entrepreneurship in general.
Yep.
No matter what your business is or what it is you've decided to do for a living, because the principles are the same, whether you're producing some sort of product or you're providing a service, which is kind of what we do as content creators.
Right.
We're providing a service, and that's my goal for the conversation. But
All right.
a little bit, just want to learn a little bit about who you are.
Sure.
And kind of what led you to this point. Where'd you grow up, man?
Sure. I grew up in Western Massachusetts. So it's an area, there's not a lot of people there. Similar to here, actually. A lot of people think of Massachusetts, they think of Boston, you know, that's about it. But Western Massachusetts is mountainous, just like it is here. Has pretty harsh winters. But yeah, that's where I grew up. And I hated it. I was not a fan of living there at all. I didn't like the cold. People are kind of rude. Everything's expensive. And almost as soon as I could, I left immediately. I went down to college. I went to college in Charlotte, at UNC Charlotte, the 49ers. At the time, the economy was booming. This was boom time, late 90s, early 2000s. And I was lucky enough that I literally never interviewed for a job coming out of college. Let me back this up by saying my entire life, I thought I was going to join the military, but different opportunities kept appearing to me. So I got a scholarship, you know, to college. So I was like, okay, well, I kind of can't turn that down. You know, that's kind of good. And then my senior year in college, I was recruited by multiple companies for really good jobs. And I was like, ugh, kind of can't turn that down. So I did that, went into the business world. I worked at DHL. At the time, DHL was trying to expand and compete with FedEx and UPS. So a lot of business growth that I got to see. I rose through the ranks very quickly there and had a really good job, a really good career. But essentially, we started to see the global war on terrorism develop, and I was obviously an able-bodied male, and I always wanted to join the military. And I kind of came to a point in my life, mid-20s-ish, where I was like, do I want to continue doing this? And I'm blessed to have this opportunity to have, you know, a good job and all the things like that. Or join the military now. Well, I don't have a wife and I don't have kids at the time, and decided to do that. And I became a E3 in the Air Force. So
It's a big step back.
I went from making quite a bit of money, quite a lot more than E3 used to make, I can tell you that much, to doing that and living in the barracks. Yeah, so I was in the Air Force for a few years, then transitioned to the Army, did that for a while. And in that period, started a YouTube channel, not intentionally. Do you want to hear the whole story on that?
I definitely want to get to that for sure.
Okay.
I have to ask you first,
Sure.
though, why the Air Force, and then why the transition to Army?
Yeah, so one of the things, at the time, the easy answer is at the time, the Air Force was the only branch that was offering the type of job I wanted to people off the street. All the other branches were making people go in first and then try to get that contract, if that makes sense. And so I really don't talk publicly a ton about what I did in the Air Force and the Army in terms of like jobs and where I was. I mean, I mentioned on my channel I was deployed to Iraq. But the reason for that is I should back up, because we went past it. So when I was in high school, I had the opportunity my senior year, while I was still in high school, to go to the police academy. And I wasn't sure at the time if I was going to go to college. And so at the time I was thinking I needed a job with insurance, you know, like, and benefits. So I was actually complaining to the local police chief about something. I was the way I was treated by an officer. And he said, well, do you think you can do it better? And I didn't know where he was going with that. And I said, yeah, you know, and he said, well, try it. You know, we'll sponsor you to go to the police academy. So I did. I ended up going there. I was still had 2 months left in high school when I started the academy, which is crazy. Man. Yeah. We had to get an exception because normally you have to be 21, and the governor actually signed off on me being able to go. So I did that. And then that's where I first fired a gun for the first time. We didn't grow up with guns in my family at all. They were my dad would have been fine with it, I'm sure. My mom was very, very anti-gun. So did that, and basically I just went through the academy and started my OJT on the job training there, and realized it just wasn't a job that I wanted at all once I actually got into it and seeing what it was like. So I say like I had a brief period in law enforcement, but not really. Like I just went through the training essentially, and then saw, you know, on the on-the-job training, and I was like, this is not for me. And the reason for that was I thought being a police officer, you would help people. But once I got out there, the only people we really ever helped were people who were in car accidents. So everyone else that you interact with in that job, this is my perception, what I saw. I'm sure there's a lot of law enforcement guys listening to this that'll disagree. Every interaction you had with people was either their worst day, either because they were just a victim of a crime or because they just committed a crime and were about to go to jail, right?
Yeah.
And so very quickly I saw that the helping people was a very small part of that job from my perspective. And of course, that's the micro perspective, not the macro perspective. You can make a different argument on the macro level, and I get that. The day-to-day of it just wasn't something I was interested in. And then, like I said, I had an opportunity to go to college, so I was like, I'll just shelve that career and move on. So I never really was a police officer, if that makes sense. I just went through the training and was like, no, it's not for me. So yeah, that was the first time I fired a gun, though. So that lit off a spark. And obviously, by that time, I was an adult, so I could buy guns and didn't have to worry about my mom being anti-gun in the house.
Yeah,
I had moved
So
out.
it was immediately something that
yeah.
that you were interested in.
Oh yeah, Glock 22, yeah, Gen 2. For those of you guys who are gun nerds, immediately. I was always interested in it as a kid. I just couldn't have it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
so that was the first place that I had access to it. Did that. Went to college, career. And then somewhere in the military, in that mix, started a YouTube channel by accident. So I had no plans of ever being a YouTuber, ever. It's funny to think
I didn't
of now.
either, man.
But my wife, she was my girlfriend back then, and we had been dating a couple months. And this was in Columbia, South Carolina. And she was a nurse at the time. She worked at the city hospital downtown. And this was before Narcan, which is relevant to the story. Because what would happen was, well, first off, she got off work about 5 a.m. And so it was dark, obviously, at that time. And my wife now is still gorgeous. And picture this is 15 years ago, so, even more so. And she told me that when she got off work, she had to walk past a bunch of heroin addicts that would sit in the parking lot of the hospital in case they OD'd. That way they were already at the hospital. So they would do their heroin in the parking lot in case they OD'd, like no Narcan back then. And of course, with all the heroin users, there's also heroin dealers and all the other crime that comes with it, all hanging out in the parking lot of this hospital. And she'd walk to her car in the dark, and they had to park far away because they were employees. No security, no nothing. And so she tells me this story, and I probably had been dating for 2 months at the time, not long. She told me the story, and I was floored by it. And I was like, you're never doing that again. Like, ever, never. We're going to go buy a gun right now. And my wife was ambivalent about guns. Not pro or anti, but she was like, she kind of saw the utility here argument that I was making. And so went out and bought at the time what was a brand new Glock 19 Gen 4. Gen 4 is just released like that week. And, I had experience with Glock 19. Most people do. It's just kind of the default answer. What do you want? I don't know. Get a Glock 19.
Yeah.
So we got her the new one and this is the funny part of the story. And I've actually heard the owner of Palmetto State Armory talk about this, so it's been said before. But at the time, Palmetto State Armory, which is a huge company now in our industry, at the time they had one store, brick and mortar shop in Columbia, South Carolina. They didn't even have a website, and that's where I bought that gun, which is crazy to see how they have grown, and then I've grown as well from that little time. But anyway, so bought that gun, and I was working a lot. I had a job in the Army at the time that was very intensive, and I stayed at work a lot. Excuse me.
You're good, brother.
And so point being is I wasn't around my wife, then girlfriend, very much to test it out. I just didn't have a lot of time. But her father was a retired fighter pilot, very experienced with pistols because that's what they carry. And she went shooting with him, and the gun just was having malfunctions left and right. And so I went out and shot it one day, malfunctions left and right, just to verify it wasn't like a limp wrist issue or something like that. And so sent the gun back into Glock. They send it right back and say it's good to go. No parts changed, no nothing. So I was mad, and I was on a forum called Glock Talk, which is like an online gun forum. And I'm still there, actually. I still post there. But I knew that you could upload YouTube videos, and this was like probably 2011, 2012 timeframe. I knew you could upload YouTube video and then embed it on the forum.
Yeah.
So I had been posting about the problems this gun was having on the forum. And everyone was like, oh, you're limp wristing it, you get bad ammo, It's not the gun, it's you, essentially, every time, all the comments, because it's
Which is what you would think if a Glock's malfunctioning. That, yeah, I mean, they're so well known for their reliability and just they're bulletproof,
Right.
you know?
Yep. And so I was getting mad that these guys were telling me I didn't know what I was doing, you know? So I had my wife shoot, like, it was probably 360p. The video doesn't exist anymore. I wish it did. But 360p, filming it, just her holding it. And I would hold up like, this is federal ammo, put it in the gun, grip it properly, and show the malfunctions over and over again. This is Winchester ammo, same thing over and over again. No editing, no nothing. Post the video on YouTube just so I could embed it in the forum to shut the people up. So back then, your YouTube, your email that you signed up with YouTube was on your YouTube page. And so the video goes viral. You know, back then, for people who don't know about YouTube back then, there was like 3 gun channels, maybe.
Yeah, it was
It's not
so
like,
much smaller back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you had Hickok 45, Nothing Fancy, Such. That might have been it. Demolition Ranch, maybe. Yeah, Demolition Ranch, probably. And it wasn't like it is today. Like the review format just wasn't a thing. So anyway, the video went viral because that was the first gun, the Gen 4, that people really saw on the internet, and it was having problems. And on a lot of the forums, people were complaining about the Gen 4s having problems. And they had just come out, and Glock was denying it, and here was the evidence. So the video went viral. My first video ever. First viral video. I've only had one since. Anyway, out of thousands. But so the video goes viral. The marketing head of Glock emails me, because he had my email. Emails me and was like, hey, can we get that gun in and fix it? And I was like, sure. And this time they paid shipping. The first time I had to pay shipping. So
you got their attention.
That was the first, that was the first time that YouTube made a difference. So anyway, the gun went back and it was gone for a long time. And for people who remember the Gen 4 rollout, they had tons of problems. They actually like suspended production for a while. I think they had to change, don't quote me on this, but like 12 or 15 parts on the gun, which there's not a lot of parts on a Glock. So to have to change that many parts to get it to function was pretty significant. They essentially were just beta testing the gun on their customers.
It's not like Glock.
No, it's not. There's other companies.
Mistake,
Other companies do that. Glock typically doesn't.
A lot of other gun companies do that.
Yeah.
I see that quite a bit.
But so it ended up taking about 6 months. Got a good, before Glock ironed the process out. So Glock sent me all the new parts, the gun back, and he said, hey, can you make a video with the gun showing it working? I was like, sure. Again, I wasn't planning on being a YouTuber, but he asked, and I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so I made a video showing the gun working, and that was pretty much it for years. I had those 2 videos up, and then I was on Glock Talk again, the gun forum, and somebody like angrily messaged me on the forum. They were like, I asked you a question, and you never answered it. And I was like, I don't know you, bro. Like, what are you, what are you talking about? Why would you ask a question? And he asked it in the comments of one of the videos. Again, I was not a YouTuber. I had no idea there was comments. No clue. Like, I never looked.
You literally just posted the video so you could have the link to embed in the
correct.
form.
That's it. I had no idea what was going on on YouTube.
Wow, man.
And so I went in the comments section, and a lot of the comments were just questions. How do you clean a gun? How do you, I don't know, what ammo do you recommend? Whatever, stuff like that. And so I was like, well, I guess I could make videos answering these questions. And that's how my channel started. No plans at all. And it just grew from there.
So you go and you read the comments and you think, okay, these are easy videos that I can put out to help people, simple questions.
Right.
And you go and you start doing that. And was that kind of the foundation of your channel for a long time?
Yes, tutorials. Tutorials is where I cut my teeth in YouTube for sure.
Because it's changed a lot.
Yeah,
and I think in terms of entrepreneurship, one of the most difficult things as an entrepreneur is that you really have to periodically reinvent yourself.
100%.
Have you experienced that?
Yes. On my end, it's largely been forced on me by social media. So, for example, tutorials. Nowadays, I almost never take a gun apart on camera because I've gotten so many videos either struck restricted or completely deleted by YouTube for doing that. So that's just an example. They say you can't create or modify a gun on YouTube, and they say that a lot of times the reviewer will say that you're modifying it because they don't understand guns. So, for example, things like that have happened. The tutorials, essentially, I don't want to say I ran out of ideas. It's not true, but I wanted to do something else. I was just kind of bored, you know. And so that's when I got into the reviews, because people are asking like, "Hey, I see you're using X product. Tell me about the product."
Yep.
And so that's how that happened.
So at what point in this journey did it become? So I'm assuming it was like your side thing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
For
years.
Yeah. Because you were still active duty.
Yep.
And you were
correct.
You were, building your channel alongside.
Sure.
And what a cool like time that we live in too, by the way. Like when you say entrepreneurship now, it's so much different than what that would have meant 20, 30 years ago.
Well, just earlier today out on the range, you were posing for a thumbnail. And I said to you, I said, did you ever think you'd be doing this for a living? No, right?
Yeah.
Me either. It's crazy.
It's a wild time, man. Yeah, because, just 20 years ago, it was like when you spoke about entrepreneurship, it was just your traditional type of business, whether it was a storefront or, you were putting in HVAC or, whatever. But it's there's so much space now, and there's so many ways to make money, even on the side, in the beginning. You know what I mean? There's so many things that you can do to generate revenue that I don't know, it's a no-brainer to me. I get kind of frustrated when people complain about not being able to live the lifestyle that they want to live, because the times that we live in right now, I don't know that it's ever been easier.
Agreed.
To be an entrepreneur at any other time in history.
Yeah, and my wife and I talk about this a lot because we obviously have employees and have had them over the years. And a lot of people, I'm sure there's some kind of study on this, but a lot of people, and it's most people, just don't have internal drive or initiative on their own, which is why a lot of people just want to be employees. They want to go to work and work 8 hours a day and be told what to do and do it. And they get a sense of accomplishment out of it. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. We need employees.
I'm going to tell you, if you can do that and live the lifestyle that you are happy with living,
agreed,
you should do that.
Right. I agree.
Because you're probably going to live a lot longer than I am.
True.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. No.
It's mainly, the conversation's mainly for the people who are just feel stuck, and they're like, man, I don't have the things that I dream of having, and I can't go the places that I've always wanted to go. And it's like, hey man, I'm encouraging you, if you're listening to this, get creative, because there's so many ways
there really are
that it can happen. And your story's interesting too, because it happened for you like on accident. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so to getting back to the point you were saying, that when did it become sort of not a hobby?
Yeah, when were you like, oh, dang, man, this is actually turning into something?
So I've been on YouTube long enough now that I've seen a lot of stages of YouTube, if that makes sense. And so probably 2015-ish, don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure, I had about 100,000 subscribers, and YouTube actually reached out. And so Google bought YouTube, I believe, in 2016. Don't quote me on that, but it was before the purchase. So YouTube reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to join our ad program? And I had no idea what it was. Again, I just really wasn't focused on YouTube at all. And so I said, sure. And so signed up for that. And back then, the money was actually decent. It's a lot better than it is now. Per view, it's way better than it is now. But so I was like, well, I can buy a new camera. I can buy a microphone. So that's kind of how the switch went off in my head of like, this can actually be a business. And that was just YouTube AdSense. Then, only a couple years later is before you guys were doing your thing. But in 2017, there was something called the Adpocalypse, which was a big deal.
Yeah, I heard you mention that, and I don't know anything about that. This is all intriguing to me, man.
Yeah.
because we haven't been on there for very long. So
yeah, so in 2017, the Wall Street Journal, they're the ones who wrote it. They wrote an article and it just got picked up by everyone. And they wrote an article about, so, you know, companies, whoever, Disney was buying ads on YouTube, and YouTube didn't have a way, like they didn't have categories like they have now. So they didn't have a way to make sure that a Disney video wasn't shown on like an ISIS recruiting video, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what the Wall Street Journal did is they went through and found all these different examples of like Coke or Disney or just like these really, really mainstream companies, and their ads being run on videos that they wouldn't want them to be run on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
And so when that happened, I mean, like within a week, YouTube changed completely. Essentially, at first, everyone's ads were gone. There was no ads, like zero. And then YouTube figured it out, got categories, and started paying out on different levels for different categories. And then they also allowed advertisers to better target their audience. But YouTube still has a serious problem with that, which I honestly don't know why, but they do. And so when that happened, the money completely changed. And that was the first time also that the demonetization process happened. Like that wasn't a thing before. Every video was monetized like back then. And now if I had to say since Adpocalypse, I would say for me, 60%, 70% are demonetized. And I was telling you earlier that basically from me on my channel personally, from like 2018 to 2021, I was completely demonetized, 100% the whole channel.
Why do you think that's happening? Is it the people, the CEOs of Google? Like, why is that happening?
Sure. So I'm actually lucky enough now that I have a rep at YouTube that will actually like take my calls and like fight for me, if that makes sense. So I have some portal into it. There's certain things they just can't fight. So like, for example, in January of 2023, I believe it was, I put out a Surefire video where I attached the suppressor on video to show the quick attach method of a suppressor. Mm-hmm. And YouTube,
which is totally legal.
Right.
You possess the suppressor
100%.
legally.
Yep. And so at the time, YouTube was putting out these like rules that weren't published, and they still do this to a lesser extent now. And apparently they had made the call that adding a suppressor was modifying a weapon. And so at that time, my channel, the whole channel, so the way it normally works for people who don't know is you have a strike system. So you'll get a strike. With one strike on YouTube, I don't think there's actually any punishment. And then when you get 2 strikes, you can't go live and you can't publish for a week. And if you get your 3rd strike, your channel is deleted. Well, so somebody looked at my channel after that suppressor video that apparently was violative of their policies, and then saw that I had hundreds of videos attaching suppressors, right? And I did. That's true. They weren't making it up. I absolutely did. And so they just gave me 3 strikes all at once. So my whole channel was deleted.
So you just woke up one morning and it was gone.
Yes, with no channel. And at the time, I probably had 600,000 subscribers, maybe 650.
So you put a lot of work into it.
Thousands of videos, yeah. And so it ended up, my channel was suspended or completely deleted.
Well, hold on. How did you feel that morning you woke up and all those years of work?
Yeah.
And I mean, you're talking about at that point, like tens of thousands of hours.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you think about filming, editing, posting.
Everything, yeah.
I mean, how did you feel when that? I mean, were you pissed? Were you like, screw this, or like?
So,
I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, man. Like,
so after Adpocalypse happened, talking with other people, we all kind of thought it was a matter of time before like we got deleted or something. And honestly, I'll just tell you, I felt that way until Elon bought Twitter. I still kind of thought I was on borrowed time, which is why I put so much effort into my channel. Is that essentially I was like, well, I gotta earn what I can from this source of revenue as fast as I can until they take it away.
Yep.
That's how I felt.
Yep.
I don't feel that way now with Twitter, which is good. I feel like I will still have Twitter, even if everything else goes away. And so anyway, so point being is a lot of us felt that way after Adpocalypse that essentially it was going to end one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, that's just my day. That's the day it ended, you know, when they deleted it. I was like, well, I mean, I logged in. I didn't have a channel. Like, it was deleted. It was gone. And so I was working with a few other YouTube creators that I knew who had representatives at YouTube trying to go back and forth to figure out if we could fix this. And long story short, about 3 months later, we had a negotiated settlement, if you will, with YouTube. And they agreed that they essentially would just take out about, it was like 250 videos where I was attaching suppressors
Mm-hmm.
and just delete them and reinstate my channel. And I was like, fine. And so that's what happened.
I mean, so what drove you? What drove you to continue to pursue, like, getting your channel back up? Like because I have to imagine. I know if I'm putting myself in your shoes, and if that happened to me, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd probably just be like, well, screw this. They don't want me here. I'm gonna go find another place.
Sure.
Or so. What was driving you to do that? Is it just your love for your subscribers, the people that the content's benefiting? Like, you do begin to feel connected to those
100%,
people.
yeah.
So like, what was 3-month process, and then having to go through negotiations? That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
Your time is money.
Yep.
YouTube's not the only thing you do. You
No.
have other businesses. You got other things you can do. You
Yep.
don't have to do this.
No, I don't.
So
Yeah. So it's all of that. I mean, I enjoy doing YouTube.
that's good, man.
I didn't at first, actually, and it kind of grew on me. It's the opposite of the way most people go. Most people enjoy it at first and kind of don't at the end.
Mhm.
But no, I like it. I mean, like today we had a lot of fun. It's good times. So I like it that way. Also, you know, YouTube has enabled me to have a life that I would never have without YouTube, right? Like, I would never be here. I would never I'm going on a trip hog hunting out of a helicopter in 2 weeks. So there's opportunities that my audience gives me that I would otherwise never have if I didn't have my audience. And I'm forever grateful to them. I say that all the time. It's true. But I also think that, so on my channel, for those who don't watch it, I do primarily reviews, but I also do political content.
Which is really good, by the way.
Thank you.
I watched one. I watched actually a few today, and you know, I want to get into that and how you shifted into that here in just a little bit.
Sure.
But it's really well thought through.
Thank you.
You put a lot of work into that.
I do.
And to make it as accurate and as complete as you possibly can in terms of perspective and giving the actual facts.
Right.
I thought that was really good. And,
Thank you.
Now, speaking of the audience,
Sure.
do you read the comments?
So I've gone back and forth. There was about probably right after my channel came back, I stopped and I didn't read the comments for years. At first I did it. At first I read probably until 2017. I responded to every comment.
Holy smokes. man.
Responded to every comment. But then I went and I was thinking, like, essentially I was thinking they were toxic to read, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Because the majority of comments are great. Believe me, if you go through my comments, like, I don't delete comments. So if you comment, it's there. The majority of them are great, but a lot of them, you know, are critical. It's just how it is. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, you know. And at some point, I don't know, did you ever meet James Yeager?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So James has passed now, but James was one of the early YouTubers out there. He ran a company called Tactical Response. James had his channel nuked with over 1 million subscribers and grew it back before he passed to several 100,000. So good for him. But anyway, James used to say, at some point, like, you can take feedback, but at some point, if you're listening to the comment section, you'll end up in the comment section, meaning you'll be one of them instead of the creator, if that makes sense. And I think there's some truth to that, right? At some point, you just have to do what you do, and either that's good enough or not.
I'm so glad you said that, man. Like that, and this is applicable to everyone listening right now who uses social media. You know, first of all, I don't know that it's good for the human brain to receive thousands of inputs.
Agreed. That's what I was saying. It feels toxic.
Yeah, I don't think that our brain was designed for that level or amount of inputs. You know, you think about how did we as humans live for thousands of years? It was, you know, you were in your little local community or tribe,
Right.
and you know, you knew a handful of people, and you had a couple of people around you that you were really close to, and
That's it.
that was it. You
Right.
know what I mean? So I found that when I do, it's hard, and it's hard not to want to read
Correct.
people's feedback.
It
It
is. I
really
agree.
is, man, when you care, you know?
Especially when I was new, it was super helpful because I was really bad on camera. I don't know that I'm good now, but I was really bad back then.
Yeah.
And a lot of it was helpful. Hey, if you do this, it'll look better. If you do that, it'll look better. So at first, I took a lot of it constructively, and I still do to a certain extent. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, so what I do now is essentially for the first 24 hours after a video goes up, I'll read them. And the reason for that is the majority of views on a new video come from subscribers. At least mine do. Other channels may not. And so those are my subscribers. So those are the people that are invested in my content.
Yeah, yeah.
So typically that's what I do.
That's good
24
policy,
hours
man.
after,
Yeah.
and then after that, gone.
Yeah, and another thing, and you said it just a second ago. I think when you get into all of those inputs, it does in some way like move you away from your genuine self.
Right.
And to be honest with you, man, I think that that's happened to me, you know, multiple times through my journey in this whole, you know, social media land. Is I found myself, you know, doing things and creating content that I'm not really passionate about, and I'm frustrated when I'm doing it, and it's ultimately not that good, even
Right.
if it gets the most views. But kind of what leads you there is all those comments are influential,
For sure.
whether anyone wants to admit it or not.
Yep.
I mean, you're being influenced by that input.
I mean, we're human beings. We're not
Exactly,
machines.
man. Yeah, and I don't care how confident you are in yourself and this and that, but it's always it's nothing's ever going to be sustainable unless you are operating within the boundaries of who you are, like
Right.
what you enjoy, what you love, saying things the way you want to say it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's been a big struggle for me.
Yeah, I mean, it is for everyone. I think. I don't think you're unique on that. I mean, it was for me too. Like in the beginning, I found myself trying to copy the video style of other people I liked, and it just looked awkward. You
Yep.
know, for sure. So eventually grew out of that. But yeah, I mean, it's true. Absolutely, all the comments do matter. But getting back to your earlier question about how I felt on, you know, when my channel was deleted, it was a further push because Adpocalypse started it for sure. But when my channel was deleted, it was very a much so a reminder to diversify my streams of revenue, if that makes sense.
Yeah, man.
And so, yeah, I definitely focused on other streams of revenue, both under the Mrgunsngear brand, if you will, as well as my other businesses. And that's paid dividends now that I still have, of course, a YouTube channel and the revenue that comes from that, but also the other streams are stronger, if you will,
Yeah, yeah.
than they would have been.
Yeah. And I would highly recommend that, by the way. Anybody listening to this, if you're thinking about, you know, going this route, or you want to figure out how to make side money leveraging these platforms, I would not ever recommend putting all of your eggs in that basket.
No.
And it's because of stories like yours. I mean, ultimately you're at the mercy of this company who's hosting this platform, or who owns this platform. You know?
Absolutely. And so if you guys ever watch my videos, at least that I've made in the last 4 or 5 since this happened, all my videos, I have a call to action to the viewer to sign up for my email list or my text list or whatever, because those are the only things that I own ultimately, right? Everything else is reliant on somebody else. And so, yeah, I'm very, very aware of that, if you will. But I look at right now, like over the last year, I know a lot of people that are huge on TikTok, and TikTok pays good money, like way better than YouTube money. So I'm not on TikTok, but people who are, and they're successful at it, they make a lot of money, which is good for them. But with all the TikTok ban happening over the last year, back and forth, imagine how those people felt.
They were bent out of shape.
Rightfully so.
Yeah.
Because that was where they were. and that was it.
It's just not smart to put
It's
put
not.
all your eggs in that basket, man. And it's tempting to, especially when it's rocking and rolling.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You're like, well, I don't have to do anything else. Let's just keep feeding this
Machine
and making this better. You know what I mean? But it can go away at any moment.
Yep.
I think that's one of the unique things, definitely, about this type of entrepreneurship in comparison to, you definitely have a lot more control when you have a more traditional business model.
For sure.
You
if
know what I mean?
Run an HVAC shop, yes.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah, for sure. So when did you decide to begin to incorporate the other style of video that you're now making, which is the kind of news briefs?
Yep.
I mean, it's like a news show.
Yeah.
Like it's really well done and thought through. So when did that come into play and why?
I don't know when the first one I did, but it's relatively recent. So probably the last 2 years. And the reason why is just people were asking questions. It's just like the reviews, and tutorials that I started with. People were asking questions about what about this law that Biden wants to do or whatever. Oh, it's been longer than that because it was Trump. My first video I think I ever made was the Trump bump stock video, political video. So yeah, it's been longer. I take that back. But yeah, people were asking like, is this legal? How can they do this? And I was like, well, let's find out. And so that's where it came from. And then political videos are interesting. And I do almost all 2A. I'll do some general civil rights videos as well. But they get a very, like when you first put them up, they get tons of views. But on YouTube, there's a term called evergreen. So like if you do a video on a Glock 19, for example, people will always be searching for Glock 19 in the future, right? So they'll always find it. Whereas whatever the political hot button issue of the day, 2 weeks from now, probably no one's searching for it. So they do real well at first and then fade off quickly. However, one thing I find is that the amount of like thoughtful comments, speaking of comments, thoughtful comments that I get on those videos are way more than anything else. And I don't know if it's just because it's an emotional issue or what, but they definitely are. And really, I just started doing it because, like I said, people were asking. And it started with the bump stock thing. Now that I think about it, it definitely was. And then, once Biden got into office, there was just so much coming at us so fast that, I didn't have a shortage of materials. I can tell you that much.
That was a heyday, right? Yeah, and there was always something that was worth talking about, like worth discussing, and things that people needed to be made aware of.
Well, the classic one is the brace argument. I mean, how many, or SBR as they were calling it, but how many people under the last administration? And some people that this was enforced on, there's still a case right now that's pending for a guy with a brace pistol right now, which is crazy, but it's true. I mean, how many people had under the last interpretation of the law an illegal SBR? Millions.
Yeah.
Millions. Literally, probably over 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them have normal jobs. They don't go on YouTube and search gun videos. They had no idea that they were potentially looking at a felony for the gun they legally bought at a gun store 3 months earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. And so, like, if we don't tell them, like ABC News isn't going to run that story. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to explain the nuances of the NFA. They're just not.
Yeah.
And so, well, I can. So
I think you're very passionate about, especially the Second Amendment rights.
Mm-hmm.
What other things in terms of that arena are you super passionate about? Do you keep most of that revolving around, firearms related stories and laws, or?
That's definitely the center. However, I will go into other abuses of power, if you will. So like when government force is being used in a way it shouldn't be,
mm-hmm.
and it's tyrannical, then I call that out too. So it's very funny. I get called a cop hater a lot, which I am not a cop hater. I hate bad cops who do bad things.
Yeah.
And I will call that out when it's unconstitutional or illegal. But yeah, so things like that, illegal search and seizures happen a lot. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, where they take your property. What's it called? People are typing it down below, where they just take your property because they assume that it's unlawful. There's a term for this.
It's not the, you're not talking about the red flag
No.
law
I'm
things,
talking
right?
just in general. Like if the police pull someone over and they have like $100,000 in cash.
Oh, yeah,
They'll
yeah.
just take it.
Cornbread, you've told me about that. Yeah, the other day I was riding around with like $30,000 or $40,000 in cash,
Yeah.
and Cornbread was like, "You better quit riding around with that, man, because if you get pulled over, they're just going to take that from you."
And they do. There's a word for it, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's driving me nuts. I'll know it. I'll know it as soon as we're done recording. But anyway, yeah. So that things like that are very common and completely unconstitutional, and people have to fight to get their stuff back, and they almost never do. It's like a 10% success rate of getting it back. And like the examples that you see are crazy. There was one 2 years ago of a guy in Texas, and he was an immigrant, illegal, and just became a citizen like 3 months before this happened, which is crazy. And had saved up for a house, was going to physically drive to the bank to deposit the money to buy the house, and I think it was $189,000. And yeah, he was driving there, and they took it. His whole life savings to buy a house on the way to the bank.
You gotta be kidding.
And he had
me, dude.
emails and stuff backing all of it up.
Did you do a show on this?
Yeah. And confiscation, seizure, there's a word for it. I can't think of it anyway. But yeah, like he had all the documents, like emails with the bank saying, "Hey, I'm coming by today to drop my money off to buy the house." The house was lined up. He had emails with the realtors. It was 100% that's what he was doing. And he never got that money back.
Now, these stories like this, are you finding these organically, or is your audience kind of driving you in these directions?
A little bit of both.
A little bit of both?
Yeah. Some of them they send to me, and some of them I find. Yeah.
How much time do you put in terms of prep into each one of those?
So
just on average.
Yeah. If it's a political video, nowadays I'm pretty tuned in, so I'm not a ton, probably 2 hours maybe, I would say is average. Average. But yeah, if it's not a 2A issue, sometimes I'll look a little deeper because it's not, my lane, if you will.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
well, I want to get your perspective too, since you're part of that conversation, obviously in the public forum. Things have changed a lot in the last couple of months, man.
It's insane. So
what's going on, man?
So speaking of YouTube and providing you with opportunities you never thought you would have, I have at least 5 members of the cabinets, of the current presidential cabinet's cell phone numbers in my phone. That's crazy. And I know them. I mean, that's crazy. And that's something that obviously without YouTube I wouldn't have. But so, yeah, things have been changing. But the point is, like, how does someone I know become, a cabinet secretary? It's crazy. And things definitely have, which is good in a good way. People who talk to me are now in influential positions. Additionally, there are 2 congressmen who have asked me not to say who they are, which is fine. I respect that, who regularly call me for input on Second Amendment bills. Because they want to see, like, what's the street actually say, not what their intern says, who has no idea.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's some of the access that I would never have without YouTube. So it's pretty cool.
Well, you talked about during the Biden administration, and especially during the COVID years, how there was so much to talk about. There was it was insane.
Yep.
Like I remember my political segment is Truck Talk, right?
Yep.
And it's like every day there was something you could have done a Truck Talk on that was meaningful. Like, hey, this is what the crap, man.
Yep.
But where what I'm wondering is all of those people who are in charge and all of those crazy people where did they all go? It seems like they just all disappeared overnight.
It does seem like that.
Does that not feel weird to you?
A lot of them did, but a lot of them haven't. A lot of them are still there. So it's a mix. But yeah, it definitely feels like, I'm not that old, but this has definitely been the biggest shift politically. And I would probably say also in terms of like hope for the future that I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Yeah.
In the last month or month and a half, whatever it's been. I think certain things are possible now that I never thought or possibly before. Like, for example, like people talking about SBRs, people are like, do you think we could ever get, silencers off the NFA? Like, if you had asked me that last year, I'd be like, probably not. Now I'm like, maybe. I'm not saying we will. I'm saying like it's possible. There are people behind it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we went from, in 2020 and 2021, like I'm in a basement loading magazines, like getting my kit squared away, like, making sure, everything's ready to go. To like now, it's like, oh man, it's weird, dude.
No,
it's just such a hard shift. And I mean, how has that changed your content? I mean, in terms, is it more difficult for you? Does it feel better? Is it nice to finally be able to talk about positive things?
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah. I mean, the thing about positive things is absolutely true. I made 2 videos about President Trump. Essentially, like one video was what could President Trump actually do with the executive authority that the executive has for gun rights. And then, when Pam Bondi was selected, funny story on that. So I made a video about Pam Bondi. So again, living in Florida, she was our attorney general for a long time. And this is what I'm about to say is an objective fact. Pam Bondi and Rick Scott passed more gun control than President Obama or President Biden ever did in Florida. That's true. I mean, I could get into it, go through a long list. It absolutely did happen. So she's on the record on a lot of videos talking about red flag laws, 18 to 21-year-olds not being able to buy weapons, opposing aspects of constitutional carry. So when she was selected, I knew her track record. So I made a video about it. And again, I'm hopeful. The arguments and the pushback that I got from my audience, which I actually said in my video as well because I knew it was coming, was the argument for her is going to be that she worked for Rick Scott, who was the governor at the time, and she, as the AG, was implementing his guidance, right? Like the commander's guidance in the military, if that makes sense. And so I was like, fair. That's fair. That could be true. I'm hopeful that is the case, and she will follow President Trump's directives in that position, right? That's the case. But I was very skeptical on the pick, if that makes sense. Or I wasn't skeptical. It's not the right word. But I said we should have a little bit of caution going into this, right? And so after that video went up, a ton, like at least 10 of gun lobby organizations, like members of the organization. So like the people who actually work there, who deal with politicians all day long, called me and was like, hey, we know Pam Bondi. I'm telling you, she's good. And I'm like, okay, like time will tell. But everything I said in my video is true. Her history is what it is. But it was just very interesting that a lot of people immediately called me and were like, hey, she's good. And I'm like, okay, I don't know her. You may know her. I don't know her, so. But point is, I was putting that video out with cautious optimism, whereas that would have never happened with one of Joe Biden's picks.
Yeah.
I would have never been like, this could be good,
Yeah, I hear
no
you,
way.
man.
No way. So.
It almost feels, for me, weird after the last couple of years. It feels weird to be speaking any sort of positivity around politics. I don't think I've gotten used to it yet.
No, me neither. I haven't either.
It's weird, man.
I haven't either.
But I think, just that story that you just told is a good representation of the attitude that we should all have, even as it pertains to Donald Trump, President Trump. It's like, I think if we want to talk about, yes, a lot of things are better and we hope that they continue to get better, but one of the dangers is we as a country just all of a sudden blindly trust.
Absolutely.
We put this blind trust, we relax, we don't pay attention. And I'm preaching to myself too, by the way, because sure. I kind of, I've been feeling that too the last couple of months off. We can finally relax, right? But we all know the danger is becoming complacent, not paying attention, and we can't blindly trust any of these
Sure.
people who desire power and who have power,
Right.
you know?
And I think that's particularly important with when you have leaders who are charismatic. So, like, for example, President Trump is charismatic, 100%. So people get emotionally invested in the person. The same was true with Obama. Obama was charismatic to his side. People got emotionally invested in Obama and looked the other way, for example, when Obama attacked 8 countries after getting the Nobel Prize, for example, Peace Prize. They looked the other way because they were emotionally invested in the charismatic figure. Whereas somebody like George Bush or even Biden, they're not charismatic at all. Neither one of them were. And I think you have less of that with those kind of figures because people look at them more objectively because they don't feel like they like the person. I mean, like on our side, I mean, there are so many people who have an inability to question anything President Trump does that it's kind of scary. Like,
He's an anomaly, dude.
and it's because he's charismatic. He is.
On our channel, like, if I say something negative or even questioning President Trump, I will immediately lose like
100%.
1,000 plus
I will too.
subscribers
Every time.
And it's so continue.
Yep. So, I
It's
mean,
an
like when I
anomaly.
made that bump stop video about President Trump, I mean, I lost probably 10, 15,000 subscribers, which was significant.
Yeah,
And it was
that's a hit.
And it was a video that got a lot of, a video was like million, I think 2 million views and got them right around that time. And, but I'd make it again in a heartbeat. It's the right answer. Banning a product that doesn't violate the law is wrong. And especially a Republican should not be doing it when it's a gun accessory. It's like banning a flashlight. I mean, it's so insane.
Yeah.
And so if you don't call that stuff out, then I mean, what are we doing? Why are we here?
Yeah. No, that's good, man. I have to ask you while I have you here, and this doesn't pertain to, content creation and entrepreneurship, but because I do respect how well you understand issues and you think through things and you're invested in being an intelligent human being as it pertains to stuff that matters in our country. What is your perspective or maybe your view or opinion on election integrity?
Sure.
I just want to ask you that question.
We'll get to that. It just came back to my head. It's civil asset forfeiture. I knew the term would come back. That's when the police steal your stuff. All right. I knew it would come to me. But so election integrity. Okay.
It's been a big issue on my channel, right? Because I lean heavily one way and it really makes a lot of people upset. So what's your opinion on it?
Sure. So a couple things. One, our elections are not anywhere near as secure as they should be. Multiple countries around the world have used voting machines, computerized voting machines. I believe we are still one of 2 that still currently uses them. And the reason is every other country has found fraud and has stopped using them. The fact, this is the way I explain it to people that I think kind of hits home. The fact that we can put a serial number on every $1 bill that we print in America, but we can't put a serial number on a ballot is insane.
Man, that's a good point.
Of course we can. And of course we should. And they should all be tracked. Every single one that's printed with a serial number should be trackable to where it goes. And the person who shows up should have to show a form of ID and sign that they are the ones who filled out that serial number. It's very simple. It's easy to do. We do it for a $1 bill, but we can't do it for a ballot. It's crazy. I mean, it makes no sense. We absolutely can.
Wow.
And the only argument against it is fraud. That's the only argument, is that you want fraud. Tell me a good argument against doing that. I don't know of one. I've never heard one. I'm open to it, but I haven't heard one.
I've never even thought about that, man. That's such a simple solution.
It is.
So do you think that the individual voter and in the ballot that he or her cast, do you think that it's taken into consideration?
I do. And for people who don't know, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, I worked with Mug Club for a while, which is a right, I guess you'd call it, I don't know. You call it a right-wing media company, and they're fairly large, and they actually have an investigative team. And they went out and actually did, for example, in Michigan and Nevada, they sent their team of real people out to addresses of people who voted just to see if it's a real address. And they did it on a grand scale for months. And what they found, I'm not sure if they've actually put the percentages up, so I might not say it publicly, but they found that it was a significant number of addresses that people, quote unquote, people voted from didn't exist. They weren't addresses. It was like a sidewalk or like a storage shed or something like that. And so I definitely think there are issues with the votes, but the way I think of it is, let's say there's fraud. Let's say there's 5% voter fraud. I don't know, whatever. Pick your number. All the voter fraud can do is dilute your vote. Like, I think your vote still counts. It might not count for 100% of what you cast, if that makes sense, but it might count for 95%, or it might count for 90% or 80%, just based on the fraud. But I definitely think there's fraud. I don't think that I know that. I've seen the numbers. But I think the vote still matters to an extent. And I think the Republicans did a decent job this time of using a lot of the tactics that Democrats have traditionally used. For example, the easiest one is early voting. Traditionally, Republicans didn't early vote, and the politicians running for office encouraged people to vote on the day of election.
Yep.
Now, in a ideal world, I would like that too. I would like everyone to vote on the day of election, or the day or two of election, whatever we come to. But that's not the world we live in. We don't live in an ideal world. We live in the real world. And in the real world, Democrats go out and tell people to vote early. They do. And then they also do other things like ballot harvesting and things like that where it's legal. Republicans never did that. This is the first election Republicans have ballot harvested. So if we're going to compete fairly, we have to use the same tactics they're using. Do I think it's good? No, I don't. I don't think ballot harvesting is good. I think it should be illegal, but it's not in a lot of states. In most states, it's not. But yeah, so to answer the question, yes, I think the vote still matters. I just think it could be, well, very likely is a percentage of the vote is diluted by fraud, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, I could get on board with that, for sure. I tend to be a man of extremes.
Yeah.
Like, I like to go to
all one way.
For some reason, man, it's just the way I'm wired. I'm like, if this thing isn't 100%,
right,
what it should be, I'll lean toward well, screw it then.
Right.
I'm not going to play that game.
Right.
But ultimately that doesn't. I mean, I'll admit. That doesn't really get you anywhere.
No,
right?
It doesn't.
I mean,
not in that world. Not in the political world.
No, it doesn't. I mean, I always lean toward I have for the last few years. My solution is a second American Revolution, and a tearing down of the entire system and a rebuilding something back off of the foundations of, the Constitution and. But that's my bent toward the extreme. You know what I mean?
So one thing I say that I don't think is that extreme along those lines is I think there's a very good chance that in our lifetime, people who are our age, we will see a state secede, at least one. And so that's based on just watching life over the last decades. For example, look at like marijuana laws. When they first started out, like California and stuff, who are not following marijuana laws, that's a form of secession. It is, because you're not following the federal law. Every time you don't follow a federal law, it's a form of secession. It's just, will the feds tolerate it? And to this point, all the different forms of secession, whether it be sanctuary cities, which is a form of secession, because you're not following federal law and you're refusing to, have all not monetarily hurt the federal government. So every instance you can think of where a state doesn't follow federal laws to this point that I'm aware of, I could be wrong, have not been financial, i.e. a state hasn't said, we're not going to collect this tax.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, but there's still forms of secession. But when it gets to the point that we're like, we're not going to send you this tax, then it will probably become more serious. But think about how polarized this country is, right? I mean, there are people who think it's perfectly acceptable to have actual surgery on a child to remove their organs that allow them to have a child.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a sizable percentage of people who think that's okay. Like, it's not a little bit. I mean, right now, you look at the polling, it's over 20%. I mean, in many places, and in some places, it's like 50 something percent.
That's hard to believe, man.
But it is.
Yeah.
And those people who think like that, they're just, you can't reason with them. You know what I mean? And so, obviously, in a polite society, in a modern society, you also don't imprison them or shoot them. So how does that all work itself out? I think the only way, and I think either left or right, it doesn't matter which, the only way that really works itself out is through state secession. And so it could happen in the form of like California being like, oh, you know, we're not going to allow the Second Amendment to come in here with some, you know, let's say the NFA gets repealed and the Supreme Court takes away the ability of California to make like gun rosters and all the other stuff they do. Well, we're not going to follow that. We're just going to create our own place with, you know, communism or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like that could happen. And then alternatively, let's say Kamala had won. Like think of how different the world would be right now if Kamala had won.
Dude.
I mean, a lot of people would probably think there wouldn't have been an election in the next few years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people felt we would have been trending to. And so in that case, imagine what would have been shoved on our laws. Mandatory transgender. Like you have to allow your, you know, that's just one issue. There's a lot of issues, obviously, but I'm just picking that one out because it's so visceral.
Yeah. Shocking.
Correct.
For sure.
Correct. So, but say, you know, the federal government said all states have to allow this and pay for it with taxpayer money, these surgeries. Like Florida or Texas could have just been like, just as an example, it could be in South Carolina, you know, whoever could have been like, no, we're not going to do it. We're just going to do our own thing. And I think people always ask, well, do you think like, do you want to have soldiers shooting citizens on American soil? No, obviously. But I don't think in the social media age that it would get to that. I really don't. I just don't. Like in this, like, for example, I don't know how familiar you are with the Troubles, if you will, the IRA fighting the British for decades over control of Northern Ireland. Like if that conflict happened today, I think the IRA would have won because everything would have been seen.
Yeah.
And at the time, it wasn't. The only thing that was seen was the British perspective.
I get totally what you're saying.
And so I don't think in the social media age, a civil war will happen in a country like America, if that makes sense. I just don't think it's possible.
I get that totally. I've never really considered that though, of how much more difficult it is nowadays for a evil person who wants to become a dictator or carry out some evil agenda on a certain portion of the population. It's so much more difficult for them to brainwash the majority of the population to carry out their evil agenda because people can see
Correct.
all of these different perspectives.
And to be clear, I'm not saying the IRA was right or wrong. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if both sides were able to get coverage, it would have been very different.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. And you have to imagine that these people that are evil who want to carry out agendas that are anti-American, they know that too, and that's probably a big part of why these social media platforms have been censored so heavily. Like they know, they understand exactly what we're talking about right now. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And social media is just the latest vehicle. It's been traditional media before that. I mean, Operation Mockingbird is real. It's a real thing. It really happened. And then, you know, recently, as of when we're recording this, we found out that USAID was funding every left-wing media group, every single one of them, the BBC, I mean, Disney, ABC. I mean, it's all of them except for the right wing, you know. But they were all getting money from taxpayer dollars in a way that wasn't like NPR, of course, we all know is taxpayer funded. Like the Wall Street Journal shouldn't be taxpayer funded, you know, and then they're writing articles on the government that they're getting money from. How do you think they're going to write those articles? They're going to write them in a way that the government's going to like. I mean, it's just how it works.
I guess this has been going on probably since the
Decades.
yeah. I mean, I mean, probably even like hundreds of years. I mean, you have to think at any point in human history, if someone wanted power, like their first agenda has to be
Control the message.
Control the message and the avenues that are in place to put out the message so that you can have your propaganda promoted.
And that's like you and I have been around the world, but a lot of Americans haven't. And I think they have a lot of people take the First Amendment for granted. There's no other country in the world that has free speech. Not one. No other one. I mean, you can go to jail in every country in the world besides America for saying things.
I just saw a clip the other day where J.D. Vance was hitting on I don't know if it was the prime. No, it was in that same.
It was in Germany. I saw it.
Yeah, he was hitting on them for the fact that they don't allow their free speech in their countries.
Memes. People go to jail for memes.
Yeah, yeah.
In a lot of countries.
I thought that was good that that was awesome that the dude was calling them out for that bull crap.
And during COVID in Canada, they were locking people up for opposing COVID.
Yeah, it was wild, man. Yeah, when I think back on those years, it almost doesn't even seem real.
It doesn't.
Like,
I agree.
It was strange, dude.
Yeah, I agree. And I did a lot of videos during that time about the civil rights violations of it. Like one, for example, that I still, it baffles my mind that nothing has happened to the people that perpetrated it, which are police officers who arrested members of a church who were praying outside in the open and arrested the people who were attending. Now I think they ended up just getting a ticket, but the guy who was running it, the pastor or minister, whatever his title was, he went to jail.
I watched the whole documentary on that. Yeah.
And in a just world, every single officer that was on that scene needs to be tried. There's multiple federal laws that are essentially along the theme of denying civil rights under the color of law. And those are crimes. Those are real crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think unless, and this goes back to what you were asking about President Trump as well, unless some of those, I'm not saying they all have to, but unless some of those people are held accountable for those tyrannical actions, then it'll probably happen again.
Yeah, yeah.
But at least some of them need to face charges because it was criminal. What they were doing was criminal.
Mm-hmm.
And the politicians as well. The politicians who ordered those law enforcement officers to do it, they need to go to jail too. Well, I shouldn't say go to jail. You need to have a trial and let the process play out.
That's right.
But they absolutely need to be charged.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's hard not to think it's hard for me not to think ahead and wonder, like, man, what's it going to be like when the pendulum swings back again this next time?
Yeah.
Like, because it's coming. Right. Like you said, it's probably going to happen again. And I agree with you. It's hard not to anticipate that and kind of go down that negative rabbit hole. You know what I mean?
I've talked about this with a few people. I don't think I've ever talked about it publicly, but why not? Let's talk about it. So one thing I've said in multiple conversations, not public, but here we are, is that I think President Trump during his campaign, we'll see how it plays out in real life, said that he wasn't going to go after anybody who went after him. And I understand why he said that in the campaign, because if he said anything else, they'd be like, he's coming for everyone. And they would turn it into a anti-Trump or a reason not to vote for Trump, excuse me. But I think he has to get a few of them, at least. Because, there was some gross violations of law, not just who went after him. There were gross violations of law who protected certain people who were Democrats. And in this case, they were Democrats. But until something happens on the other side to make them not feel untouchable, they'll feel untouchable and they'll act that way. So what I think would be like a good solution, if you will, if President Trump asked me, which he never would, but if he asked me, like, what should I do? I would go because some of them are really clear cases. Like very clear cases of felonies being committed over the last 4 years. I would just be like, I'd get whichever ones are the most egregious that were very easily provable, have them be convicted, let the Democrats talk about, this is political prosecution, blah, 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 blah. And then just be like, listen, have a meeting with the leaders of both parties and be like, can we agree to go back like it was before 2016 when we didn't prosecute our political enemies? Because we didn't until then. That was new. That's a new thing in American history. And if everyone agrees to it, then you go back. Like, fine, no more. But until you get a few, they don't care. What's going to stop them? What's going to stop the next federal agent from interfering in a presidential election and leaking a false story to the news?
Yeah.
Nothing. That's a crime. That's election interference. I mean, it's black and white.
Yeah. And what you're talking about has nothing to do with Trump's own personal agenda.
No.
It's just, it's necessary to uphold the integrity
of the system
that's in place.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way you're explaining the reason why politicians act the way they act, because they know that there are no repercussions.
I mean, for people who don't pay attention, several of President Trump's advisors during his first term were not only arrested, whatever federal agency was behind those arrests would tell the news about it beforehand, and there would be a news camera on site when the raid happened. That happened multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Think about that. I mean, they're leaking raids of political opponents to the media who then covers it gleefully. I mean, that's North Korea.
Wow.
And it happened multiple times.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well,
we went down a rabbit hole.
We got a long we got a long ways to go, man. We were just talking about, just before all this, we were talking about how now we can finally take a break. We're headed in a better direction.
And I think we are.
We can talk positive about things, but it's just, man, there's just so much has just gotten so out of whack.
Very.
Almost to the point it's like, well, crap. Is this ever going to be the way it's meant to be ever again? Because there's so much.
Right.
Well, I got a few more questions for you, just in terms of your journey with, creating your channel and growing that into a business and a brand. What have been some of the biggest challenges for you personally along the way? You can just pick one or a few or whatever stands out to you.
Yep. So I would say the biggest challenge that pretty much every creator has who does content creation, but it's also the key to success, is consistency. So people, I'm sure they ask you this as well. People come up to me all the time. Hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. What are your tips? Number one, I ask, have you started it yet? And they always say no. And I'm like, well, then you really don't want to start a YouTube channel, because you could have started it whenever you wanted to. And that always kind of turns that light bulb on in their head. And then additionally, what I always say is be consistent. Whatever your production schedule is going to be, some people post every day, some people post once a week, some people post once a month, whatever it is. There are a myriad of examples of people who have had success posting at all those different interval lengths. There are no examples of successful long-term YouTube channels of people who post 3 videos back to back, wait a year, post a video. Like that it's not successful. YouTube does not reward that. Social media in general does not reward that. No algorithm is going to reward someone who's not consistently engaging with the platform. That's just their business model. You just have to accept it and then understand that and produce within it. And so consistency is key. Everyone I know who has started a channel, which at this point in my life is a lot of people, grown it to about 40 to 80,000. And I don't know how it works with monetization anymore, so I can't really give you a number, but generally speaking, somewhere in that range, you're going to not be losing money anymore to start your channel. So everyone who's gotten to that point where they're at least breaking even and doesn't continue, the reason is consistency. They think, oh, it's just not worth it. I've been putting in a year and I haven't made any money yet. I'm still losing money. I lost money for 4 years running my channel.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand
So-
that. They think, well, what's the big deal? This is it's free for you to post on YouTube. It's like, dude,
not.
you don't understand that, like literally tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment, the time spent both in filming and editing,
Right.
the equipment and the gear that you have to purchase to actually do the type of content
Correct.
that you do. It's a costs a lot of money.
Yep.
And like you said, you're doing it for a long time before you're even just breaking even.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
and I imagine most people to get to that point at 80 to 100,000 subscribers, that probably takes multiple years.
Oh, yeah.
We were kind
Normally-
of an anomaly.
You were such an anomaly.
I don't know why that happened.
I don't
but
either. But I mean, but it's true. You were the anomaly. That's not normal. And so the thing that, again, prevents people from being successful is consistency. Like, for example, like
That's in everything, man.
Like it is, but it's more so in this. So like, for example, like I watch your videos, you're funny, you have a good personality. So you have some natural talent. Like other people in our space who would fit that would be like Grand Thumb, Brandon Herrera, the AK guy, Matt at Demolition Ranch, for example. Like they have on-camera charisma. Like I don't. I just don't. Like you either have it or I don't have it, right? But I have knowledge and I know what I'm talking about. And I believe anyway, and I'm sure my viewers would back this up, at least my subscribers, maybe not my viewers. My subscribers would say that I have integrity. Like if a product sucks or if it doesn't work, I'm going to show you that. And there have been multiple companies that don't work with me anymore because I've shown their product not working correctly. And you have to have that integrity. But if you have integrity, knowledge, and or personality, ideally all of them, but not all of us have that, and you're consistent, you will be successful. You will be. The timeline's going to be different, right, for that success, depending on the balance of those ingredients. But you will be successful if you are consistent and you have that. And then, like, I kind of just got into it a little bit there, but one of the things, because a lot of people, like I review stuff, and the reality is, guys, most stuff today works. It just does. Like we're in the golden age of firearms. Like you were talking about earlier, how many good guns there are that are under $400. I mean, there's so many. 10 years ago, that was not the case. And so people oftentimes will be like, "Oh, you're just a paid shill or whatever." I'm telling you, like, a company couldn't pay me enough money, whatever that dollar amount would be, to say a bad product is good, because no matter what, my relationship with my audience is always going to be more valuable than my relationship with Glock or Smith & Wesson or Bravo Company or whoever. And, well, I shouldn't say that. They could probably pay me to do it. It would just be such an obscene amount that they would never do it. And I would shut my channel down. I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, like, they just can't. Like, I mean, everyone runs their channel different. I know there are channels that do charge for positive reviews. I never do. I'm on a number of emails with people who don't work at these companies anymore, so they could leak them tomorrow. I will not. None of my agreements with any companies ever for positive. It's always for production value, or production costs, or just exposure to the audience, if you will. But I will always say what the item is, good or bad, and that integrity matters as well.
That's awesome advice that I needed to hear. I'll share one of my biggest struggles. Is it's been hard for me at times to remember that it's real people on the backside of the camera.
Sure.
Because I'm just talking to a camera.
Right.
And so you talk about how important integrity is, and a lot of times, I mean, I sometimes I'll just go off the rails with stuff, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because I'm talking to a camera. It's like, it's been a real struggle to think, no, man, like these subscribers, even right now we're talking to a microphone. Now this is better because we're face to face. We're having a real conversation, but like these are real people who are listening to this show, and we should all expect integrity from each other you know, in whatever community you're a part of.
Right.
And so we recently, something happened recently. Speaking, you were talking about your partnerships and you know, different companies that you've worked with and stuff like that. So we recently had a company reach out to us, and I'll tell you what the company was. It was USCCA. Okay, so USCCA
I know where this is going.
They're like, hey, will you introduce your audience to what we do here? And so I just take a cursory look to okay, what is this USCCA? And I'm like, oh man, they've got training.
How long ago was this?
This was like literally a month ago.
Okay, yeah.
Or like,
that's relevant for anybody who knows about USCCA. Go ahead.
So you're giving you guys behind the scenes on how all this works. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. They got training. It looks like, you know, they're educating people. It all looks legit, and like they're providing this service where they basically provide some sort of coverage for people if you get in self-defense shooting or something like that. So I'm like, oh, okay, this looks sweet. Well, you know, I'm not a customer and have no long-term relationship, but I see, well, it looks like this fits with the type of content, and maybe my audience is interested in it.
Sure.
So I'll run just a short thing on USCCA. And
a month ago, that wouldn't have gone well.
No, I'm like, hey, guys, check this out. USCCA, it looks pretty cool. They got training. They got this. They got that. And we released that video, and like, my audience, the subscribers that have been viewing our channel for so long, and they were like blown away. And I'm like, whoa, what's the problem here? You know what I mean? So that was just a huge like wake up call for me. Like, no, these are real people. Like they feel connected to, and they are in a way connected to what we're doing.
Right.
You know?
And just same example, I've had contracts with USCCA as well. But right now with everything that's come to light over the last few months, I wouldn't run an ad on them. I'm not saying they're a bad company. I'm just saying it's not a fit for my brand anymore.
Yeah.
With everything we know at this point. And if you look at probably the most high profile example of something like that happening recently, and I'm not going to go into the man or the person. I'm just going to go into what happened. Is Tim Kennedy with what happened with the rollout from Staccato. Did you see that ad?
No.
Okay, so Tim Kennedy's gotten into some controversy over the last few months, let's just say. We'll leave it there. That has alienated a lot of the veteran community. And Staccato filmed an ad apparently like 6 or 7 months ago, like before all that came out. And Tim Kennedy was the guy in the ad, along with other people. And so they dropped this video. I mean, this was not long. This was probably like, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. They dropped the video, let's say at 10 a.m. It was the morning for sure. And all their social media ads, the comments blow up. And just about people who are upset that the company Staccato was working with Tim Kennedy. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm not going to say. But I mean, Staccato pulled that ad, which was, I'm sure they paid a lot of money for that ad. It was a well-done ad. They pulled it, put up a statement like 3 hours later, hey, we didn't know. It was filmed before that. And then what ended up happening with that is not all, I can't say all, I don't know his business, but a lot of the companies, the firearms industry who worked with Tim Kennedy, FN, there was others, came out and said, you know, he's not with us anymore, to distance themselves from him. And it just goes back to say, like, again, these are real people, right? Like real people had a reaction to what had come to light. And we're like, we will not do business with you anymore. And it was the same thing you probably experienced with that USCCA ad.
It was like, well, yeah. And so that kind of, we talked about how we have to constantly like reinvent ourselves and assess what we're doing. And so like that caused me to say, okay, like I have two options here. I either need to, as the creator, I need to start doing more in-depth research into companies who want exposure to our subscribers or our audience, which I'll go ahead and tell you up front, I don't have time for that.
Right.
Like,
it's hard.
We do so many other things than just this.
Right.
I don't have time to really go and read reviews and do all this background research. So I either have to do that or I have to begin to make a delineation between a company or a brand that we are in partnership with, who we're doing things together,
Correct.
right? Like,
Yep.
like, hey, this is stuff that I use. These are people that I know. These are people that I trust, and we're partners with them. And we have to make the audience has to be clear
On the difference.
if they see me, using this product, and they need to know, okay, that's a partner,
Right.
or this is something that this company wants the audience to know about it, and we're going to tell you guys about it. Do your own research,
Right.
But this is the product or service that they offer,
Yep.
and that's that.
That's
you
the
know
right
what I mean?
answer. I agree. That's the right answer for sure. And of course, there's certain ads you just wouldn't take. Everyone's
Of
different on
course,
that.
yeah.
I had a company.
We turn a lot down.
Yeah,
We really do.
I had a company that was offering a lot of money for a product that I just thought was unsafe, and I was like, I don't care what you offer me. Like, I can't recommend that to my audience. It's just, I just can't. So, yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, it's great, man. And the consistency, you talked about that as one of the major challenges for you. Like, in what way has that been challenging? Is it just during those seasons of your life where you just feel like you got a lot of other stuff going on,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, there's that. And then I think everyone has a level of burnout to a certain extent. And
talk about that.
And
man.
we all
Yeah.
have to manage it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do, with whatever job. Eventually, you're going to get somewhat burned out by it, even if it's a really cool job like we have, because I know everyone does it differently. But like for me, I'm a one-man show. I mean, I have employees and I have moderators on my social media, but I mean, the video is shot by me, edited by me, uploaded by me, keyworded by me, all that stuff. So
I don't know how you do that, by the way.
It's a lot. But so what I used to do, just for example, is I used to do about 4 videos every week religiously. I still do, sometimes I do 4, but baseline is 2. I always do 2 every time, stay consistent. I hold myself to that standard. Like if I don't have a second video up and it's like Thursday, I'm like,
You got to grind one out.
time to knock it out. But there's weeks I still do 4. But point being is I did draw back a little bit on it. And I think I don't really think it's bad. I haven't seen any negative impact on my channel outside of course, you have less videos, right? But other than that, the growth curve has seemed very similar. And then you just have to refocus too, with what I was talking about earlier about not having all your eggs in one basket recently. Just for example, when I first started out, Facebook was a place that generated significant revenue for my channel. Now it doesn't, almost none. And now X does. Generates significant revenue for my channel, and because I monetize it in several different ways. But you have to, focus. Now my YouTube's not generating the revenue it once did, and it's not. That's true. So lately I've prioritized X. So you kind of have to shift with the C's as well.
That's a good word, man. Yeah, you have to constantly assess and innovate and pivot, and that's just the reality.
Of running a business.
And that's hard because you get really invested in one thing for multiple years and you're rocking and rolling with it. And then, you realize, oh, crap. Now I got to kind of do that all over again over here.
Yep.
And do it in a unique way over here, know? And that would stop a lot of people.
It would. It would.
Yeah, it really would.
But in some ways, this is particularly true on YouTube. In some ways, I get a little bit of a kick just being there because I know they don't want me there. So
that's good, man.
So it makes me feel happy just knowing they don't want me there and I'm there anyway. So there's that. There's a little bit of
which is crazy to say that they don't want you there. It's so no. I'm not saying that you're wrong in saying that. I'm saying it's crazy that they wouldn't want you there when you're serving a large percentage of their customer base with the type of content that they want. It just seems like such a terrible business.
It's wild.
Like model or idea.
It's
you know?
wild. Yeah. I mean, for those who've never watched my videos, I mean, my videos are family friendly. You can watch my videos with your 3-year-old and feel very comfortable. You don't have to watch it beforehand. It is as family. I don't curse. I don't do anything. Not on video. Obviously, in real life I do. But yeah, the fact that my videos would be in any way controversial is crazy. Is absolutely crazy.
That is wild.
I'm just
man.
a guy in the woods talking to a camera.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? That's it. That's what I do at the end of the day.
It just seems like such a terrible business decision for them. But
I mean, people have
what do
asked,
I know? You know,
people have asked over the years, you know, like if all gun content on YouTube went away, do you think they would care? And I don't. I don't think it would impact their bottom line. Google and YouTube are just such big, massive companies. I'm not sure it would really matter. The only thing it would matter on is the perception and the corporate image of the American people. Because obviously it really wouldn't matter in any other country that they operate in, which they operate in all countries. It would hurt their brand to some people.
yeah, yeah,
But that's really, I don't think it would hurt their bottom line at all. So
yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, they are huge,
they're
man.
huge.
It's like, and so many people have told us, like, why don't you go over to Rumble
Yeah.
and you know, you were just talking a little bit ago. You have had a good experience with that.
Very.
We've been hesitant to do that because it just seems that everyone's on YouTube. Like it's
They
always funny to me when somebody who's watching a YouTube video is telling me to go to Rumble because I'm like, you're watching YouTube.
Well, the best is I think the second biggest gun channel. Colion Noir's channel is bigger than mine on Rumble, but I think he's the only one. And it's the best when my comments say, go to Rumble. And I'm like, I'm the second biggest gun channel on Rumble, and you don't know that?
You don't even know.
That
Yeah,
shows
I
you how
know, man.
effective it is.
I know.
It shows you how effective it is.
So is it a totally different audience over there?
So in our industry, it's a more, you're preaching to the choir over there. I'll say that for sure.
Okay.
Very, like one of the videos I try to do it as much as I can is bringing a first-time shooter to the range. And the reason I do those videos is it shows a lot of things. It shows the reality of a non-professional shooter shooting. It's very different. But it also, what those videos do oftentimes is they get shared by people who feel that they're in that same situation as whoever I brought on. Single mother, you know, trying to protect their family.
That's so good, man.
however.
That's such a good idea.
Yeah, they're great videos. They're so fun too because everyone gets something out of it, you know.
Yeah.
The point being is videos like that. One of the benefits of them, like I'm not sure if you look at your analytics, but my analytics are pretty steady across the board in terms of like percentage of people who are subscribed who watch versus people who aren't. And on those videos, it is not like at all. I mean, like typically I get about 40% of my views come from subscribers, about 60% from non. That's pretty consistent across the board. On those videos, it's like 90% not subscribed, 10% subscribed. So on Rumble, you don't get that. You know what I mean? You just don't get that broad reach to an audience you otherwise wouldn't impact. YouTube still is the place for that.
Gotcha.
I hope, and I will also say that over the years there have been, and again, this is probably before your time, but there's a company called Full 30. They were probably the biggest before Rumble video alternative place. And of course, there's a bunch of others still that exist. But Rumble is the first video platform across all genres that has gotten YouTube's attention. I know for a fact they have YouTube's attention. People at YouTube have told me Rumble has their attention. And so if Rumble continues to do what they do, then I think, you know, obviously that's good for everyone. It's good, even if you're not on Rumble, just to have a competitor to YouTube that makes YouTube consider, like, are we going to really delete this guy's channel because he put a suppressor on
100%.
when he has an alternative?
I see what you're saying.
It's good even if you're not there. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I've been nothing but happy with Rumble. You know, they're growing. There's some things aren't as good on Rumble for sure. Like for example, I watch all my videos on a tablet. Tablet's interface is a little wonky on Rumble. But one thing that's actually interesting about analytics, and so one thing I couldn't figure out on Rumble for a while is, like, let's say, just hypothetical, I put a video up on YouTube, it has 100,000 views, it has 1,000 comments. I put it up on Rumble. It has 10,000 views. It'll have, you would expect 100 comments. It'll have 20. I was like, why is the comment disparity so different? Rumble's interface on TV apparently is very, very good.
Oh, okay.
And so people are watching it on their smart TVs where there's no way to comment.
I'll be dang.
And that's what's doing it. And so it's just interesting, all the different platforms, you know.
All right. I could ask you questions all day. We're going to wrap up soon.
All right.
You got other places to go, but
I do.
do you got
But I'm having fun.
Do you ever have subscribers accuse you of deleting comments on your
Yes.
video? Okay, that's happening to us all the time, and we don't delete any comments. I don't know where they're going.
I don't either.
Is that YouTube? You think that's
Yes.
Okay.
I think they're using words that YouTube doesn't like.
Gotcha.
That's my guess. I mentioned that earlier. I don't delete comments. Like people think I do. I don't.
Yeah, we get accused of that on a weekly basis,
No.
like, well, probably a daily basis. You deleted my comment, and it's like, no, we don't do that. Like, what do I care what you comment?
Right. I
dude?
don't. I like the comments, even the negative ones. They help the algorithm. Why not? You know, why would I delete that? It doesn't make any sense.
So good. I hope some of those people, some subscribers are listening to this.
Yeah.
This will go on YouTube. So,
Yep.
and then just want to wrap up with just kind of the most rewarding part of this part of your, you know, your entrepreneurial journey, and maybe any encouragement that you have for people that are just getting started.
Oof. The most rewarding part. I would say the most rewarding part, and this would apply to all my businesses, is providing for my family. Obviously, that's a good one. And then a life that they otherwise wouldn't have. And then is just to be able to not have a boss, you know?
Not have a boss you don't like.
Well, that's fair, but it's empowering, you know, to know that it's on you, which is scary for a lot of people, but it's also hugely rewarding as well. Like, let me just give you an example. So we had so if I had a boss, this wouldn't have happened. So we bought a pan the other day. My wife and I bought a pan. It was supposed to be nonstick. It didn't stick. I know cast iron's the way. I know. Don't preach to me in the comments. Anyway, so we bought this pan, and the nonstick feature of it just didn't work. So I was like, man, I'm gonna take it out to the range and shoot it and see if it'll stop any bullets. Right? I'll just put it on Twitter. Anyway, I put it on Twitter. The video got millions of views of me shooting a pan. And so, like, obviously, if I had a boss, they would have been like, don't shoot a pan, idiot.
Yeah.
And so the video did very well. And so I don't know when this is going to air, but a bunch of people were like, see if cast iron will stop it. So I just ordered a bunch of cast iron pans. Now we're going to see how many pans stop a bullet, you know? And so things like that, like if you worked in a corporate world, that would never happen, you know? But people loved it. And I was like, all right, well, if you guys want to see me shoot pans, I'll shoot pans, you know? Like, it's like, whatever. So it's just little things like that.
Most places that you're going to work at as like an entrepreneur, like they're going to stifle your creativity.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. And then any encouragement or advice to people just getting into this? I know you talked about consistency, integrity.
Yep.
Anything else we've missed?
I don't think so. Like people, one mistake I'll tell you that people make that I made. Well, actually, I made it later in my journey. Most people make it early in their journey. Is thinking that you have to have great production quality, and you don't. You don't. The content matters much more than production quality. And so I'll use my friend. I don't know do you know John Lovell?
Yeah. He lives right down the road.
Yeah, he does. So John's a friend of mine, and I've known John since before he was a YouTuber. And so John had 100,000 subscribers before he bought a microphone. Think about that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. He was using an iPhone with no microphone, but his content was good.
That's a good word, man.
So
you hearing that, Cornbread? Cornbread and Chili just started a channel not long ago.
Yeah.
They're cell phone only, man.
Yeah, content is king. I mean, I don't know if you know Whistling Diesel too, Cody, but great. I mean, he's had real success. Not GunTube success. He's had like legit success. I don't even know how many subscribers he had. Like a lot. Wow. There's levels to the game. You know what I mean? And his channel was the same way. First couple of years, he used an iPhone. And he had like 6 million subscribers before he had a camera. You know, I mean, it's crazy, but his content was good.
That's a good word, man. Well, Mike, I really enjoyed that
Absolutely, so did
conversation,
I.
man. And I have a feeling it's going to be interesting to the subscribers who are watching this on YouTube and the audience who listens on on audio only, because hopefully it's cool for them just to hear us talk a little backside stuff on what all's going on, and hopefully they get some encouragement from it and some takeaways that they can apply in whatever area of life they professionally, that whatever their endeavors are. I don't think there's a lot of conversations out there of guys just sitting down and being open about the backside of what all this looks like and the challenging parts of it and stuff.
Sure.
I know I haven't heard one.
Yep.
If one does,
I haven't been on one. So.
If one does exist, I would like to know about it, because it's part of what I do, and like,
Right.
I want to learn about the challenges that are coming, and what make me think about what I've done right and what I've done wrong, and it's good stuff, man. So
I agree.
I just thank you so much. You guys go check Mike out. You're at Mrgunsngear everywhere.
Yep.
I will attach links in the description of this episode. And you guys will be seeing, if you haven't already seen the content that we filmed today together, coming out. I can't wait for those. And we appreciate you guys. Anywhere else they need to go other than Mrgunsngear?
That'll do it.
All right. Outstanding, brother.
All right.
It was good. Thanks again, man.
Very welcome.
Nuff said.
Nuff said.